Meow. Everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everyone, Cantonese Cat here. I haven't talked about Dogecoin for a while. You can see from the history that's available here on TradingView, it really had three big cycles that had happened. The first cycle, they're really just a fraction of a penny, so you have a hard time really telling what it's really doing. But it's basically doing the same thing. It had a peak early on, dropped back down, and then it formed a little bit of like an Adam and Eve type pattern here. And once this pattern broke above the neckline over here, it really went parabolic up for about a year. Same thing happened during the cycle before last from 2018 to about 2021. It formed a peak and then it just basically went down and formed a little bit of an Adam and Eve accumulation pattern over here. Once it broke out above this range of the Adam and Eve neckline, it went parabolic for about, I would say, for about half a year or so. This bullish cycle didn't really last as long as this one over here. I wonder if there's a few reasons for it. One is there's some unpredictability in terms of the liquidity condition due to COVID. The other potential is maybe over here, the inflation was really starting to pick up, and there were a lot of smart money really wanting to just start distributing right around here because they just didn't think that it was going to go a lot higher. And you can see there's a huge distribution that happened right around here too. Even when price was kind of going sideways, you can see that whales were already exiting on the Blackhead L3 banker fund flow oscillator. The thing is, after that, it just went down like this, formed another Adam and Eve accumulation pattern. There's a lot of accumulation that already happened during this period of time. There was a buy signal that happened right here on a red candle, which is very interesting. Outflow had turned into inflow down here, and since then there's been a huge inflow of whales coming in. I think we're probably at the beginning stages of what happened over here. I do wonder if COVID didn't happen, if this would have gone up a lot faster, a lot higher. I don't know, because the buy signal happened right here, but this range didn't really get broken until maybe closer about half a year later. Whereas this time is a little bit different. The buy signal happened right around here. With this, very interestingly, we also have a red candle right here, but for some reason the inflow from whales have increased. So a little bit of divergence of the whale inflow versus price. And sure enough, it precipitated a pretty powerful move over the next couple months or so. Price basically just went up about 2x, a little bit more than that. And there's huge inflow over here too, but the price really hasn't gone up that much, which makes me wonder whether or not we're at the beginning stages over here for a pretty strong run. No, I don't think the price is necessarily going to have to go to such a parabolic move, because if you look at the Fibonacci level, if you draw the cycle top, the cycle bottom, the last cycle really went way above a lot of the Fibonacci extension levels that I would normally look at. I would normally look at maybe more like a 1 point. I'm going to zoom this in here a little bit. And you already see this bank inflow here, so I'm going to take that out. You can see that the price really went very much a lot further beyond the expected Fibonacci extensions. Normally, I would expect price to kind of maybe went up to like 1.618 or 2.618, maybe even 3.618 or a little bit higher level here. But price actually just went parabolically up during the last cycle when it went way above all of this Fibonacci level extensions wise. And it just went way above here, and it just went very, very parabolic. It actually ended up finding support back down here around the 2.618 extension level as it came back down. And it's been kind of hovering around the 2.618 to the 4.236 Fibonacci extension levels here in the last cycle, compared to the cycle before last. I don't anticipate this cycle's move is going to be this high, because Dogecoin's market cap is not like it was back then. It's just going to take a lot more powerful inflow for you to really push it up that high. I think it might be reasonable, because of such a powerful accumulation range over here for about 2 years. I think it might be reasonable to expect it to pump up a lot higher, but I just don't expect it to pump up to the same degree that it was pumping up to the last cycle. It's very possible for it to pump up to about $1.20, maybe even closer to $2, or maybe a little bit beyond that. But I just don't necessarily expect this big parabolic move like it did last time. The other thing is, I also don't really expect it to necessarily go that fast. Like, last time really just happened over in months number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. About, a little bit over half a year, the bull run was already over. Right? I don't necessarily anticipate that to happen. I think that it might go less parabolic and it might go slower, but and it also won't go as high, but the bull market could last a little bit longer, is what I'm thinking. Because right now, Dogecoin has about $32 billion market cap, and it's not reasonably expected to go to like the trillions. It's just not reasonable for me to think about. But can it go up to possibly around 300, $400 billion market cap when this is essentially a liquid altcoin? Can that happen for a brief period of time when things get really frothy? It's possible. If they keep printing money, if they keep on needing something to put money into, I actually think that even though that sounds ridiculous, you have like a 300 or 400 billion market cap Dogecoin. But if Bitcoin pumps from 1 point something trillion market cap to, let's say, something ridiculous like 5 trillion market cap, there's probably going to be some potential outpouring of the liquidity into other altcoins, including Doge. Am I going to say that Bitcoin's going to pump to like 5 trillion market cap? Not necessarily. But I also don't think that that's impossible, because right now we have a pretty crazy parabolic bull trend with Bitcoin as well. So anyway, that's just my initial thoughts on Dogecoin here on the monthly chart. And I'm going to put up some of the other indicators here to kind of show you as to why I think that the trend is going to be pretty powerful moving forward. One of my favorites is going to be the Ichimoku Cloud. And the Ichimoku Cloud is going to come with two lines. It's going to come with the Kijun line, which is a lagging line. It's also going to come with a Tenkin line, which is the leading line. So whenever you have a bullish cross of the leading crossing below the with the lagging crossing below the leading, you know that you have a bullish cross right around here. And last time we have a bullish cross happened right around here in November. You have a big giant green candle in January 2021, just 2 months later, and it slides us through the Ichimoku Cloud on the monthly chart like it's nothing. This time we just had a bullish cross that happened in March 2024. So the question is whether or not we're going to end up breaking through the cloud like a Swiss cheese this month or next month. We really don't know. One thing to look at too, though, is that right now price is kind of finding resistance here at a pretty interesting level here, the 0.236 Fibonacci level, which had some price history over here as well. But it looks like it's really finding a lot of resistance right here, right at the level right there. So we're still trying to break above the resistance. Who knows? Maybe we need to kind of go sideways a little bit because we are a little bit too far away from the Tenkin. Or maybe it just kind of goes up straight up parabolically and track the Tenkin and Kijun along with it, kind of like what happened during the last cycle. I don't really need it to do this for me to start making a lot of money from Dogecoin, but there's always that potential for something like this to happen when price just drag the Tenkin and Kijun way up further. Although right now it doesn't look like it's necessarily happening, does it? It might end up going sideways here for a month or two. I don't really know for sure, but so far the monthly is looking pretty promising so far with the bullish cross. The other thing is, could it find some resistance here at 30 cents, or maybe even at the top of the cloud right here closer to 37, 38 cents is possible. All these things are possible. It doesn't have to do what it did last cycle, because last cycle was really absolutely insane. We don't really know what's going to happen. It could be a lot slower. It could be more systematic. It can form a little bit better, early waves compared to last cycle. We'll see what happens. I don't think anybody really knows. But this is one indicator to look at things. I think things are probably going to keep breaking out over the next month or two. The other indicator to look at is the Bollinger Bands. The Bollinger Bands is also a very powerful way to look at it. When things kind of go sideways for about 2 years, the Bollinger Band is going to squeeze, basically telling you that big giant moves are about to come. When it's squeezed like this, basically means that volatility is almost non-existent, which means that volatility is going to come. There is a saying if you ever read one of the Chinese classics, there's a saying in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, where basically if you separate for a very long time, you're going to come together again. Or, and the same thing, if you come together for a long time, you're going to end up separating again. This is kind of how the history of China has kind of been. Like if it's been kind of going one way for a while, you should expect something different. Basically, is what I was trying to say. So whenever you see a Bollinger Band squeezing because price just kind of gone sideways for a very long time, you're going to expect to have Bollinger expansion. And as you can see, that which way is it going to pick? Is it going to pick up or down? It really depends on whether or not price spend majority of the time on the upper part of the Bollinger Band or the lower part of the Bollinger Band. If it spends significant time at the lower part of the Bollinger Band, there's a potential for the price to break down when the Bollinger Band expands. But if it spends the majority of the time above, and when the Bollinger expands, the Bollinger Band expands, the 20-month moving average points one way or another, it's going to push the price up towards one way. And it can be a very, very impulsive and ridiculous move. And that's exactly what you saw over the last cycle as Bollinger Band continued to compress. And you see that there's a breakout over here, and the price just kind of went parabolically up along the upper Bollinger Band until things get exhausted. Over here, same thing, price went sideways for about 2 years. And you can see that the Bollinger Band squeezed so much that it started to expand because you have a pretty parabolic move going upwards, right? The difference between this particular month over here versus this big giant green candle over here is that you're starting to run into a little bit of a problem here. What problem are you running into? Price is way above the upper Bollinger Band and is actually going to serve as a magnet here for the price to potentially get dragged down here this month. Price generally doesn't like to stay above the upper Bollinger Band or stay below the lower Bollinger Band for too long. Generally, there's going to be a little bit of mean reversion. Now, don't get me wrong, having an impulsive price like this is going to continue to expand the Bollinger Band. It's going to allow the price to continue to rise the upper Bollinger Band up higher. But even over here in this big giant green candle over here, it's still touching the upper Bollinger Band. Over here, we're way farther out in space, which is just going to serve a little bit of more difficulty for price to go up further until the Bollinger Band expands. So there's a potential April may actually not be a breakout month for Doge. It can go sideways, allow the upper Bollinger Band to go up higher, and then use the upper Bollinger Band as kind of like a tag point for it to go up a lot higher. And when it goes up a lot higher, it can be pretty explosive. But currently, it just doesn't look like we're in a ready position so far this month on April 1st. Price is a little bit above the upper Bollinger Band, and that's generally not yet of a favorable position for it to go higher. It could end up spending time for it to go sideways a little bit, which actually is not the end of the world. I actually would wonder if I should accumulate Dogecoin a little bit more at this level. I keep buying down here. I did have a little bit of a FOMO over here when price kind of back tested down here a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, this looks like a pretty decent area to buy potentially if I want to continue to accumulate. Obviously, the reward's not going to be as great and the risk is going to be higher, compared to down here. But I can see it potentially going sideways, even going back down and tag the upper Bollinger Band before expanding up higher, and it can take another month or 2 or 3 even before going up higher, and that's actually not necessarily a bad thing because the overall longer term bull trend is up, and it's really clear in terms of what I think it's doing, but it could take some additional time. Now, that's so far all of that is the monthly chart. If you're looking at the weekly chart, what is it going to tell you? The weekly chart's probably not going to tell you too much. It did have a little bit of a few weeks of back test down here at this breakout level. It passed, it went above, and now you're hitting a little bit of resistance or some price history over here, right? So it probably would end up, I would not be surprised if it ended up spending a few weeks or even longer around this level before breaking out. If you look at the Bollinger Band, it is not being overextended on the weekly. And I think there's still plenty of room for it to go up on the weekly because it tagged the upper Bollinger Band. So it's actually not that parabolic when it comes to the weekly chart. And you see it over the last few weeks when price just went way above it. It had to go sideways for a few weeks before price was able to continue to go up further. I think that we might start to hit a little bit of a snag right here, but because it is tagging up a Bollinger Band, I think it could potentially keep on going up higher over time. But because the monthly was a little bit further out, I do suspect maybe a little bit of sideways action here before going up further on the weekly. But the weekly is not the problem, the monthly is. If you look over at the Ichimoku cloud, You can see that Ichimoku Cloud also had a lot of these kind of back tests here. First of all, it was already way above the Ichimoku Cloud. It did a very, very perfect thing, actually. The price got rejected by Ichimoku Cloud here. Eventually passed through, got rejected from the top of the cloud, went back down, did a back test at the bottom of the cloud, and it just went up. This is a very, very classic thing for it to kind of back test the Ichimoku Cloud before bullish continuation. It did exactly just that. Now the Ichimoku Cloud also kind of come with two things. One is the Tenkan here in the red, the other one is the Kijun here on the blue. They're very powerful bull trend here on a weekly. Back tested the Tenkan and even back tested the Kijun down underneath. Found support here on the horizontal range, and it went up. So far, there's not really like a mystery here in terms of what Dogecoin has been doing and what Dogecoin will be doing. It's just a matter of if you want to trade these little tiny moves, plus or minus 20, 30%. Like I don't know what to tell you because a low time frame is just going to be a lot more unreliable. You're just going to end up creating more taxable events. Your CFA is going to hate you. But as far as I'm concerned, I think that the trend is still pretty bullish. I don't think there's any of the mystery here. If you look at the weekly moving averages, 20 above 50 above 100, this just recently happened in March of 2024. You just start having 20 moving average, 50 moving average, 100 moving average stuck in the right way. All three are pointing up right now, which is a very, very bullish thing to have. If you look at the bull market support band, right now price is just way above the bull market support band. Does it have to come back and back test it before going up higher? Not necessarily. It did do that over the last cycle or so, but it doesn't always have to do that. And also, I think the bull market support band, as price continue to go up, will end up dragging up really, really quickly once the price it's an average of these 20 weeks up here. It's going to drag that up very, very fast. So. But I do see that there are a few things that are kind of restricted. One's the monthly upper Bollinger Band. It still needs time to expand. The other one is the Bollinger Support Band still needs to potentially go up a little bit higher. It might end up doing a little bit of back test and push price a lot higher this cycle. And we just formed a weekly pull trend, so things are probably going to take a little bit longer than you expect, right? Not like last cycle when things just kind of went crazy. Can it do that? Sure. Do I expect it? Not necessarily. I never want to expect anything, too parabolic. I always want to think within reason. It's a bull trend. Follow the bull trend. Buy any weakness on a bull trend because it's probably just a dip. So far, there are no signs for any, exhaustion or anything like that. I'm going to take off some of these indicators right here and pull up some of the other indicators here, such as the RSI. You do have a little bit of sideways here, a little bit of a relative bearish divergence over here. So a little bit of tiny exhaustion over here, but not really any exhaustion in terms of the actual bull trend. With the weekly, you probably end up needing a little bit of a reset over here too, because the RSI has already kind of gone a little bit far out. But even on the last cycle, you never know. I mean, like the RSI just keep going up to like 100, like you just never know. It can just keep going higher because of how these liquid altcoins are, the way that they behave. But right now I can see that it could potentially, kind of work out some of these relative bearish divergence over here, reset the RSI a little bit. And also another thing I also want to point out too, even if you have a bad bearish divergence, you can still have price just keep going up like crazy on a bearish divergence. Like it's not anything that's unallowed. So I just want to point out maybe a little bit of cool down is needed here on the weekly, so it can potentially last 1 to 3 months sideways here a little bit. So the key thing is if you just look at a weekly, it may not tell you the full picture. If you look at a monthly, it really tells you the full picture. We're not anywhere near being overbought for an asset like Dogecoin, so I think price could potentially keep going up a lot higher. Anyway, it's been close to 20 minutes. I just want to spend some time talking about my thoughts on Dogecoin because I haven't visited for a while. Initially, I thought that April could be a breakout month, but just now looking at the chart, I'm not so sure anymore. It does look like it probably need to go sideways anywhere from April to May, potentially break out in May or June. We'll see what happens. Happy to update. I'm Cantonese Cat. Thank you for listening. Have a good one. Bye.